everyone, my name is Ashley Beeson and welcome back to my channel, and today we are concluding the Wicked movie duo with Wicked for Good. Last year, obviously, the first part of Wicked came out and I had done a video that was like a mini no spoilers review, and then I did kind of like a little fashion review of Ariana Grande's and Cynthia Erivo's premiere looks. We are essentially going to be doing the same thing with Wicked for Good to round out the two-part movie event thing. I will do my best with no spoilers, but obviously the Wicked story has been around for a long time, so a lot of people know exactly what's going on in the movies. I am not one of those people with the awareness of Wicked. That just wasn't anything that I ever really understood or that I got into outside of knowing who Glinda the Good Witch is and then who Elphaba is and a few of the songs. Like, I had very little awareness going into the first movie, and my awareness did not change going into the second movie. It's just I had the context of the first part going into the second part, and I obviously know the Wizard of Oz. But just like part one, which I absolutely loved, I was very excited for part two, and it was not disappointing to me. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a great way of finishing out the story, again, not knowing how it all ends. I thought it just sealed up the story, and I thought that the movie did a good job of connecting in the Wizard of Oz, which I guess is a part of the story. I had no idea, but it just brought everything together, and it really did need the part one, part two, because it would have just been way too much information if it was all shoved into one movie. And I think realistically my expectations were based off of part one, so I was expecting the second part to be just the same. The costumes still needed to be amazing and the story needed to be told the same way, and there weren't going to be a lot of switches in how they went from part one to part two, and I think that maintained, so my expectations were very quickly met. And I overall believe that my opinions are just about the same for part two as it was for the first Wicked movie. The cast and the acting and all that stuff was great. Glinda's character, Ariana's portrayal of Glinda and all that stuff is still my favorite amongst all of the characters. The visuals were done really well, just like last time, with the mix of the real sets and like the VFX and everything. The VFX looked good almost the entire time. I think there was just one sequence to me that I was just like, yikes, that needed a little bit more work, but the rest of it worked really, really well, and I enjoyed visually how the movie went. Singing was still great. Obviously, that wasn't gonna change. The production of the musical numbers were great, but I do think that there were actually less in this part than in the first part, but that's okay. Like, it's still, everything that they had done was still really well done, and it was just a little bit more, the music was much more focused for Wicked for Good than it was for the first Wicked movie, but it was still great with how everything was produced and how they pulled together obviously the main characters that were doing the singing with all of the extras and the background dancers and all this stuff. It was still very well put together. It was just a little bit less, but still worked. And just like the first Wicked movie, the costume design was my favorite. It was part of why I was excited to see these movies in the first place, because I knew the music was going to be very well done. I knew the singing was going to be on point, and I didn't know the story to know whether or not they were going to do a good job with the story or not, but I did know that the costumes had to be amazing, and they were amazing. And the costume designer, Paul Tazwell, continued greatness from Wicked to Wicked for Good. Glinda's looks on the whole were my favorite, to go along with her being my favorite character. Overall, I felt like there were, in general, less looks for everyone. We weren't getting as many as the first movie. I think, I could be wrong, it just felt like we were kind of seeing the same couple looks the entire way around. Glinda's looks were my favorite. Absolutely loved it. From the interlocking looks for the entire movie down to the main look for the movie, which was going to be that blue Glinda dress. It was gorgeous. Everything she was wearing was gorgeous, and I loved it all. Elphaba's looks were also good, sticking to technically very simple looks across the board, but I liked the detail if you actually looked at the outfits, particularly that main black one, which was kind of the main one for this movie. All the details in the hat and the layering of the garments and everything, it was really well done, and it was a very good, and the point, a very good contrast to Glinda's very sparkly and very light and very poofy looks. And I do want to shout out Madame Morble's looks in this movie. I don't think I actually really mentioned anything specifically for her in the first movie, but this time around her looks stood out to me more, and I thought they were stunning. Her hair was always fun, how very sculptural and all that stuff, but I just wanted to shout out Madame Morble's looks because they were gorgeous, and I just love the shape and the construction and the drama of all of it. It was very, very well done. I liked that this movie obviously carries more of a story that people are familiar with, because to me, like, the first Wicked movie was more of a background introduction, deep storyline to get us to where part 2 is, which is also kind of the point between part 1 and part 2, but part 2 brings some things that are a little bit more recognizable, and I liked that brought in some new costume creation opportunities with some of the characters, and it was both bringing in iconic things but also just making them really well done and very interesting to look at. The costuming continued to be very detailed and very interesting, from the colors to the tailoring and the constructions and the details, everything. It was still just very whimsical and a lot, and it just was perfect for the fantasy that was the Wicked story. So on the overall, was not at all disappointed by the fashion and the costume designs for this movie. It was just an amazing continuation of Wicked to Wicked for Good, and it just carries the story. And I think for this particular type of project, the costume design, and the costume design is really important for lots of movies and stuff, but this one, it definitely was a thread to help tell the story of the Wicked story. And the Wicked franchise is not really a franchise because it's only 2 movies, but it could be considered a franchise type thing. But I absolutely loved the costume design, and I absolutely loved the movie as well. I do think that personally I liked the first part more than the second part. It was just more newness to me for the part 1 movie than the part 2 movie, but I would 100% watch both movies together multiple times because they were both very well done. And I had some very shocked moments with the Wicked for Good movie because I didn't know what was going on. So there were definitely moments where I was just like, or. So they did a good job. I thought the movies were very, very well done. With my review of the movie concluded, we are going to switch our focus into doing a little mini fashion review for Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo with their premiere looks. I picked, I think, all of the main looks from the premieres that they did. They did a Paris one, a London, Singapore, and New York. And then I think Cynthia Erivo went to Brazil for one of them, and Ariana Grande wasn't there, so I threw that one in there as well. But I think I grabbed all of them. But because I feel like there are more looks to this one than there were to last year's premieres, I'm going to actually break them up. Do Ariana Grande first, and then I'll do Cynthia Erivo. So starting with Ariana Grande with the Paris premieres. The first look is a vintage Lila Diamond look. It's the black and pink dress, and I think it had a coat to go with it too. Gorgeous. Absolutely love it, and I love that her hair, she went back to her brown, so no more of the Glinda blonde. But I think everything about what Ariana was doing for this premiere, and she was carrying it through with the first premiere, but more so this one, really sitting in vintage fashion and really going for very glamorous, almost old Hollywood-esque type looks. I absolutely loved, and this look is of course a vintage look, and it's just amazing. Black and pink I love together. I love the shape of the dress, and I love how the coat sits on her. The pink florally here on the neckline is gorgeous with the very thin straps. The pink under the coat is amazing. I absolutely love this look. And then we move into probably one of my favorite looks I think I've ever seen Ariana Grande in, but this is also one of my favorite premiere looks for both her and Cynthia Erivo, is the custom Sarah Burton Givenchy look. That is giving Audrey Hepburn, and oh my goodness, it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I love the pink. That hot pink is amazing. I like how simple her makeup is. The hair getting slicked back and up into that bun that she did several times. I thought that was a great way of just kind of keeping hair consistency for most of the looks. But this dress, the way that it sits, it just brushes the ground. The big train in the back, like everything about it is just so gorgeous. Very Audrey Hepburn, very Breakfast at Tiffany's. It is absolutely amazing and I absolutely love it. I'm obsessed with this. And I also love that across the board with Ariana and Cynthia, their Givenchy looks were gorgeous and I love them. But this one by far probably one of my more favorite looks of this grouping. It's just so stunning. The shape of the dress, everything fits her so well, everything sits well. It's not like she's a very tiny person and having that big cape doesn't swallow her up or anything. It just kind of layers and lays in a way just to add amazing shape to this look, and I love it. I mean, I love Givenchy under Sarah Burton. I'm absolutely loving everything that she's been doing with the collection since she started, and this is just gorgeous. I'm gonna say it again, I'm gonna say it all the time, but this is just gorgeous. And then we have, for the actual premiere, I think for Paris, in 1998, Givenchy under Alexander McQueen. Gorgeous, amazing, so pretty. It is giving more of the Glinda vibes for this particular movie with the coloring of that blue dress, the florally strapless bodice here, and then the fade in the pleated skirt. Amazing. I like that the colors are a little bit more muted. They're pastel, but they're just very soft, softer than usual, a little bit flatter in terms of their hue brightness. It's just so pretty, and the detailing of that floral is stunning. Again, the hair in the bun, everything for this look, it's just amazing. And I love that they pulled Givenchy by Alexander McQueen, because there were some stunning fashion moments for McQueen when he was at Givenchy, and this is just one of them. It's gorgeous, stunning, works for Glinda. Again, the Givenchy looks amazing. Amazing. And then for the London premiere, I only found one look from this premiere, but it is still jaw-dropping. A 1952 Gilbert Adrian gown, big black sparkly ball gown. Oh my gosh. When I first saw this, I was just like, oh, it's gorgeous. Vintage. Amazing. The shape, I love the draping of the dress on one side and then the layering bustles on the left side. The one-shouldered dress that has a little bit more of a sleeve poof to it. It's absolutely stunning. Everything about it, from like the little ruffles down on the bottom to the tooled sparkle, like little dot sparkling that's on the top layer, the shape of the bodice, and then obviously having those, as I already said, the different shapes on the actual skirt of it. The bun, again, I like that styling for all of these looks. Then the makeup is very easy as well. This run of fashion for Ariana Grande is amazing. La Roche did a fantastic job with this, unsurprisingly, because he does so well with all of the people that he dresses, but he did a good job with this, all of this. Very, very, very well done. And this gorgeous vintage gown, so pretty, so pretty. Moving into the Singapore premiere, this is the new Balenciaga, which I am very excited about, because after the spring summer collections, I am very, very excited to see what happens at Balenciaga. But this dress keeps to the theme of having a little bit more of a glamorous old Hollywood vintage sort of energy and keeping that Glinda energy in there as well, while also being something that Ariana Grande would wear. This dress is so pretty. I absolutely love it. I love how it's technically very simple, and the front is the most simple part with just the little high strapless here, and then it has like the little poof for like the top. It's creating that waist, and then it just goes into the straight dress and then the little train. And then when you turn her around, you see a little bit more of that poof on the back, but then you have that little bow scoop of the back line that comes lower than the top. It's such a pretty look, and it still is just so glamorous. But I like that the shape, that it very quickly reads as Balenciaga, and I like that, but it is so glamorous and so pretty and so amazing that it's a nice choice. And I love that this is something that was chosen and designed and created for this, because it is different from what we were seeing, but also pulls elements from the other looks that we had already spoken about, and kind of just tied it into a bit more of a modern twist on one, just Balenciaga, but then also where Balenciaga kind of came from and the time of just vintage old Hollywood glamour. Amazing, stunning. So this Balenciaga look, I absolutely love it. And then we have the Tom Brown gown that Ariana Grande did for the Singapore premiere. I think this was like the official premiere look, and stunning. Firstly, I didn't pick up on it being Tom Brown until I actually saw that's who did it. And I was very shocked, because I don't think I've ever really seen anything Tom Brown from far away that has looked like this. Once I actually started looking at the dress, it was very clear with the little buttons going down. That's been something that's been a lot of like couture stuff for Tom Brown as of recently. And so like that gave me a little bit more of the idea, and then I started seeing some more DNA type things, and I was just like, oh, I see it now. But first, I didn't. I thought it was gonna be a different house. Couldn't tell you which house, but I just didn't think it was gonna be Tom Brown. But this is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I love the color choice with more of like a silvery top and then a very pale blue in the tulle. With the neckline, I love this straight across on her arms and neckline, and then just having the skin right here with like her clavicle and everything. The neckline is just amazing for her, and that shape is just gorgeous for her shape. And then having that sleeve with the shimmer go in, and then just having the big tulle sleeves that melt right into the rest of the dress. I really like that the tulle is uneven as it sits in the waistline. It like goes up and down where it starts and then where it flows into it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Another hair up situation, which is perfect. Everything's very like minimal, very soft in the hair, jewelry, and makeup, and it's great. This is just another winner to me, and I like that it has like the same sort of vibe as the Givenchy by Alexander McQueen look, but it's also very different. So we're telling the same story, we're just doing it in two different ways, and I think that's why it works so well for Glinda and this particular Wicked movie with what her main dress was for the look, the blue gown. But I absolutely love this look. And then the last look Ariana Grande wore for the New York premiere was a Schiaparelli look. Love based on that alone, but the actual look is gorgeous, amazing, stunning. It's giving very vintage old Hollywood glamour. I like that her hair was in a ponytail for this one instead of continuing the bun, but it's still up and pulled back and out of the way, and it works very well. That sweetheart neckline with a little bit of lace on one of the sides. The way that the black cinches, which is of course very Schiaparelli, and then it just pushes out and then into the skirt with the tulle. the little puckers of velvet. I'm assuming the top, it looks a little bit more like a black velvet, how the shape kind of pulls up a little bit at the ends when it curves at the bottom of the waistline before it gets into that tulle. It's amazing. It's so pretty. I think my main thing with what Ariana did and what La Roche did was they just kept it very glamorous, very old Hollywood, very amazing, gorgeous, stunning perfection. And it's just the vibe that they went for with keeping vintage references a part of all of it. It's amazing. And this look package is one of my favorites for sure. And I do think, remembering all of the looks that Ariana did for the first movie, these looks I like better. Those ones were good. These ones are my favorite, just holistically with the vintage Hollywood vibe. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And then moving into Cynthia Erivo, we're gonna start with her Sao Paulo premiere look. It was only one look, and it was a Jean Paul Gaultier look, the gray two-piece. I'm gonna be honest in saying, out of all of the looks, this one is my least favorite. However, it is still a very interesting look. And for me, I see Cynthia Erivo as someone that will push fashion and make looks that might be a little shocking or might be a little odd for different events. And I think that this one is of the more odd with the rest of the looks that were chosen for the premieres, but it is still really cool. Like, I like the turtleneck, and I think the shape of the top is something that I don't really love, but it's still kind of cool. The skirt is probably the thing that I like the most, with having the high waist with the big belt and then the almost like pencil skirt top part, and then it poofs out and becomes a little bit more of a shaped skirt. It is very interesting. And then the big high stilettos under it that you can see. It's a very interesting look. The skirt is, to me, better because it has a more recognizable shape, and the top I could do with a little bit of a tweak, but it is overall a very interesting look. And then into the premieres for Paris, we start with the Eli Russell Lynette's look. It's kind of like this black tailored suit type thing. Love it. There isn't much I can say with this look other than it's just really cool and I really like it. I am always a sucker for tailoring. This is a really fun fabric for this type of tailoring. The pant shape, the way that the jacket goes lower and it's a bit longer, the arms, the sleeves, the way that the lapels sit, how everything is tailored underneath. I love the glasses that were added to it. This is just a really well done, very simple, tailored moment, and they just made it more interesting by changing the fabric and having it more of like a leathery, very shiny, textured fabric. But I love this look, and like I would 100% wear this. 100% I would wear this. And Cynthia looks good. This is like a great look. And then we have a 16 Arlington look that is kind of giving flapper in a way to me, and I really like this look. I like that it's very much more casual and more simple technically than kind of the rest of the looks that we were getting across the board. It's a very fun look. I do kind of like the fact that I'm reading flapper, and so I really like that part of it. And I like that the flapper part is the top part, and then it layers into more of like a pant that you see once the dress part ends. It's a really nice, very, again, it's like a little bit more casual, but it's still very fashion, and I just really like it. And this is just a look that I added into this because I had seen it and I was just like, oh, that's like so cute. Like, I want to add this because this is just super cute and something that is just so fun and so easy and very wearable, and I wanted to throw it into the mix. So that's why it's here, because simply I just really like it. It's like a very cute look. And then for the next Givenchy look in the mix is the black lace one. This is one of my favorite looks I've ever seen Cynthia in, and I think it's because to me, one, I immediately knew it was Givenchy. But also two, it's just so glamorous and so vintage, and it's like old Hollywood. And on Cynthia, it is just gorgeous. I never would have expected, I think, this particular type of look from Cynthia because of just how risky and how much more shapely and how willing Cynthia is to kind of do something different. This isn't a very different type of silhouette, and so when I saw it, I was very shocked. But it is still a very kind of risque because the lace is very sheer. There's no like top to it, and you can see the underwear under it, and then that waistline in the middle with the leather belt that has the rest of like the train and everything that's part of it. It's like it's a different tweak to the one that Ariana Grande was wearing, that hot pink look, but it kind of comes from the same thing. But I absolutely love this look. The lace is gorgeous, the high neck is amazing, and then the little pokes of the shoulder is gorgeous. The belt that breaks up the lace is such a nice way of just like going with the shape of the waist, and that train, that big tulle train that just pushes the shape out a little bit. It makes Cynthia look so tall, and I'm sure there are big heels under those because that's what Cynthia wears a lot, are just big chunky heels. But it is just such a gorgeous dress on Cynthia. The styling is amazing, and I honestly think too the fact that Cynthia doesn't have any hair makes this look stunning. It just fits so well with it, and it's like not at any of the other looks. It all works together too, like the style of Cynthia just not having any hair and just having the shaved head works for all of the other looks. But there's something about how Cynthia just naturally is with this particular look that makes me more obsessed with it. I don't know why, it just is. And I love this look, and then the hot pink Ariana Grande Givenchy look, my favorites of the entire bunch. They just are. And then for the actual premiere, Cynthia was in a Dior look, and I thought this was super pretty. I love the hat. I love a good hat moment. And I think just the shape of it with the no top underneath the cape moment, that's really fun. And then the big skirt that comes with it. It's like it's a very simple but very interesting look. And I don't know, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of referencing the Elphaba Wicked Witch look. Like the hat is like an offshoot of the hat in the movie, and then all of the black and the way that there's a cape and everything is kind of like an offshoot of the black look from the movie. So I think that's what is happening here. I could be wrong, but to me that's what's happening. And I think it's a very modern, very real, and very just fashiony version of the Elphaba Wicked Witch look, if that's what this is. But I really like it. I just like that it's simple. There's not a lot of texture going on, but the texture is in the way that the fabric drapes, and there's no complications to using a bunch of different fabrics. It's just taking the singular fabric and just draping it and making it shapely, and that's where all of the interest is for the look. It's gorgeous. And the hat, I love the hat. And then for London, we got a Prada moment, a blue and black moment that I really like. I wasn't expecting this type of look, but I do like it. I like that most of the dress, if you like take away the sleeves and you take away some of the like the belt and the leather or maybe pleather, very shiny black panel from the middle of the skirt, it's a very glamorous old Hollywood vintage dress shape with the sweetheart neckline and all that stuff, and where the shape is in the waist and how it flares out into the big shapely skirt. And then you add all the black in, and then it becomes very modern, very interesting. There's a bit of edge to it, and this screams more Cynthia Erivo than like the Givenchy very lacy look. Like this feels more Cynthia than the other one. Both good still, but I like that because it's a Prada look, that there was something added to it to make it just that much more interesting and that much more fashion, and adding that little tweak of just like, we're gonna do this instead and make it odd looking compared to how glamorous. You could just simply make it by making it simple. And I really liked the strapping here, the way that the sleeve bunches, and it's like a leather jacket type sleeve. The belt, that waist, love it. The black panel just adds more to it. I think it's a very interesting look. It's really fun, and I just like how edgy it is. And it's vintage but modern all at once, and I like that. And I think the Prada selection was a really good choice for this particular type of look because they did it well, and I understand where we were going with it. So I really like it. And then we have Mugler for Singapore, the leather black dress with the red heel. Love it. There isn't really much to say to this particular look because I just love it. It's the suit look from Paris, slightly tweaked and made into a dress, and it's just well done. I love it. I love the shape of the collar. I love the way that there is some waist shaping in like the torso area to actually pull the waist in a bit. I like the point in the shoulder. I like the fact that there is a little bit of like a mermaidy kind of trumpet-y flare. It's not very big, but it adds a little bit more shape to the actual dress. And I would have wished for it to hit the ground, but if it hit the ground, then it would lose the moment of having the ruby red heel. So it's fine, and I do think it still looks good where it's cut, but I just like things like brushing the floor naturally. But from head to toe, a really well done look. I just like that it's simple but well done, has some shape, has some interest to it, and then the little red heel is just because of the movie, and I love it. The Wizard of Oz reference with the ruby slipper to this movie even, and well done. I love, 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 love this look. And then we have another lace number for the actual Singapore premiere, but this one was a Vivienne Westwood gown, and I like this one too. I think this one has some edgier pieces to it than the Givenchy one, but also that just makes it Vivienne Westwood. There's things about this stuff that just feels very Vivienne Westwood, so it makes sense. And I like this one. I like that the top, like the bustier part, is technically separate from the skirt, and then it has like that draping that goes across, and there's skin right on the side, but it's got a little bit of lace over it too, and then it just falls right into a little bit of train that circles Cynthia. And then I love the neck piece that goes with the dress. It's a very, I would say, edgier vintage that works for someone like Cynthia Erivo. This is the type of shape. Not that I expected this look, because I didn't, but this would be the more of the type of thing that I would expect for Cynthia versus that Givenchy. But both lace looks, they give very different energy, but they're both very well done. And I think this is just another great version of a lace look that's got detailing to it, that's got some shape to it, that's got some skin to it, that really works for Cynthia. And this one is definitely a little bit, you know, the Givenchy one has that sheerness in the actual dress, so it's got a little bit more of like that risque thing, but this is Vivienne Westwood, so it's got more of that edginess to it that the Givenchy one doesn't have. But I really like this look, and I like that obviously Cynthia is going for a lot of dark colors. Each look is different in the way that they play with how they can have the blacks or maybe those like blues in there, because the lace just adds some dimension to this look to go with the fabrications that are like under the lace, the very sheer lace. And I just really, really like it, and I think Cynthia looks gorgeous. Again, the styling with the makeup and everything, and of course the really long nails across the board, gorgeous, and I love it. And then the last look we have is for the New York premiere, and we have a new Balenciaga here as well, and this one screams Cynthia Erivo more to me than anything with obviously the big glasses that were nod to Demna, and then just how the layering and everything of this particular look, it feels very Cynthia Erivo, so this was not a shock to see being worn on the carpet for this particular premiere. I think it's very fashion. I think it's got enough drama and enough, not necessarily odd, but it's got enough something to it, and it's got some edginess to it with those glasses. All of it together works so well. And this one was on the runway, I think, for spring summer 2026, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was. And if it was, originally I didn't really love like the top part. Like it was not, I liked it, but it was not my favorite thing. But seeing it on someone like Cynthia, it fully works together. But I do like the rest of the shape with the glove and everything. Like it's a very vintage nod Balenciaga, which is what that entire collection essentially was. And so it was a really good choice for the Wicked premiere for Elphaba character, kind of keeping to somewhat of a theme for the premiere looks. And I think that Cynthia looks stunning. It all works, and collectively the looks that Cynthia curated together really work, because I still liked basically all of them with the slight tweak of like the Sao Paulo one, but still all really well done. But those are my thoughts on the premiere looks and my thoughts on the Wicked for Good movie. Overall, very successful. Wicked 1 and then Wicked for Good Part 2 were very good movies. I loved both of them. I thought that the second part was just a really good way of finishing out the story and completing it and bringing some things in that I very little knew, but like bringing those in and pushing them into the story. Costuming, gorgeous. Singing, of course, amazing. Acting, perfect. I thought it was great. And then the fashion for the premieres, across the board, very little for me to not love or critique. Very little. I just loved all of the looks for the most part. It was just very well curated for the premieres, and they both kept to their characters, but then also more of their sort of vibe and aesthetic throughout it. And so I really enjoyed that was part of the aspect. But obviously those are all of my thoughts and opinions for this, but I would love to hear yours, your opinion on the movie, on the fashion, anything that stuck out to you, things that you loved, maybe things that you didn't. I would absolutely love to hear, so you can drop a comment down below for that. But as for right now, this is the end of the video, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.